Everyone, I hope you have enjoyed this kind of cold day. It's kind of cold. Who do we got on? Hello, Coffee. I gotta get Tillo. I'm not sure which one it is. Hello, Aaron. Hello, Jen. Hello, Benji. Hello, Brody, the English Lab. Hello, Sam. Francesca, how are you? Guys, welcome on back to another episode of Bar Talk. I know night in and night out, you guys have a lot of choices for live content to go to, and please know from the bottom of my heart how grateful I am that you have chosen to come here and spend your evening with me. Okay, few things really quick before we kind of dive on in. So I want to give a happy belated birthday shout out to my little niece, Miss Scarlett, turned 5 yesterday. It was a lot of fun, so we did a huge birthday parade for her. So for those of you who know what it is, you know what it is. For those who don't, let me explain it to you. In my neighborhood, I don't know who started or how it started, but basically we've been doing these birthday parades for people that can't celebrate their birthday. So we had giant cars lined up. I dressed up as a unicorn. There was a dinosaur. There was someone from Trolls. There was Sully from Monsters, Inc. There was a horse. There was a cowboy. There was Minnie Mouse. We had to go back around the block because I had that giant popper and I didn't know how to work it. So we went back around the block again. But it was a lot of fun. And it's so weird not to be able to really celebrate it. But I know we will next year and it will be great. So she's sleeping right now. But Scarlett, happy birthday. Okay, let me go ahead and pin this. Guys, tonight's episode is brought to you by Grit Clothing Company, and Grit has been kind enough to give you guys a promo code, BARTALK15. So basically, I just pinned it. You get 15% off your next order, and that is what this shirt is. So they do a lot of cool Chicago-based stuff. I'm loving this in honor of last night's Last Dance. And in honor of that, guys, we are doing a giveaway tonight. So everyone, if you're around people who are noisy, clear them out. This is the question. I want you to answer this question, and the first person who answers it correctly in the comments, I will send you this shirt, okay? All right, so everyone's listening. I hope you are. This is my question. Okay, from last night's Last Dance episode, when Phil Jackson drew up the play to give the ball to Tony Kukoc, but Scotty decided not to return into the game, how many seconds were left on the clock? So how many seconds were left on the clock? First person who comments will get a shirt from Grit Clothing, okay? So, can I get a medium? Benji, you can get a medium if you get it correct. No, Taylor, that's not the correct. Benji, that's not correct. 6 seconds is not correct. 4 seconds is not correct. 3 seconds is not correct. Okay, I'm going to say it again. When Phil drew up the play to give the ball, 1.8 seconds. All right, we have a winner. All right, guys, 1.8 seconds. Jill, congratulations. I will go ahead and give you a shirt very, very soon, okay? All right, guys, Jill is the winner. And then last but not least, what am I drinking? I'm drinking some wine. All right. The bar has these cute little bottles of wine that I just really love. Perfect size. Ooh, I got some wine on my notes. Don't worry about it. But everyone, tell me what you're drinking and where you're drinking from. Remember, you don't have to drink tonight. We just want you here. Cheers. All right. Okay, let me go ahead and tell you about our next guest this evening. Tonight, guys, we have Hayley Elwood. Hayley is the team reporter for the LA Chargers. I got the opportunity to meet Hayley when I did my first Galvanized boot camp 3 years ago, which does not seem like it was 3 years ago. And Hayley was just so warm and caring and compassionate. She's so fantastic at her job. I'm going to go ahead and join her on in. And as we're getting connected, everyone, I want you to think about, because one of the first things I'm going to ask Hayley is I want to talk about The Last Dance just a little bit. So I would love to know your comments. So don't comment them yet, but I want you to think about what stuck out to you the most from yesterday, okay? So think about that, and I'm going to go ahead and get Hayley. Okay. What's up? Hi, Mallory. Hello.
Jenna,
How are you?
how are you?
I am so good. Tell me, what are you drinking with me this evening?
So I have a little bit. It is a rosé cider from Trader Joe's. I don't
Yum.
usually during the week unless it's Friday. So thanks, girl. You got me.
I'm happy I can make the exception for you, I guess. All right, well, cheers, girl.
Cheers.
Okay, so I had asked everyone who was watching, I want to get their comments on last night's Last Dance episode. And before we dive into everything with you and football and whatnot, I know you're watching this, so I would love to get your perspective on everything that's been going on.
I'm going to have a really disappointing answer for you. And
that's okay.
I'm actually not watching it. I have.
What?
No, it's really bad. It's like, I get like an F in like isolation sports media content 101.
Okay.
I've just been, I'm choosing, like, I know it's amazing and I see all the tweets every day and or every Sunday, and I feel like I'm sort of tuning in by proximity in a weird way.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I cannot contribute to the conversation. I feel very badly asking about the shot clock, and I was like, oh God. I'm like, and then I saw your intro and I was like, I've failed this one already.
Oh no, it's okay. I know a lot of people who are just like, I'm going to wait till it's all done to binge watch it, which totally makes sense. So I guess we won't get into that. And for everyone who's watching, we can do some comments afterwards. Okay. We'll do that afterwards. But it was last night, all I'll say, without giving too much away, the director had said he was shocked that Michael agreed on everything. Mm-hmm. And in my head, I was like, ooh, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And like, yes, there was some like explicits of language. And like, I mean, to me, like, I don't know, being an athlete, I'm like, yeah, you swear it. It's part of the game in a sense. But after realizing what it was that he was willing to let air, and how emotional he got, I have like a newfound love and respect for Michael Jordan that I just never had before.
That's pretty impressive too, because I think it takes a lot. And I think one of the things that I read about this documentary was like he had final say over everything, which, I remember Beyonce when she had her HBO doc, gosh, probably 6-7 years ago at this point. It felt very like sanitized to me in a sense that she had that final say. But when you get that type of access, or when you get someone to grant you that type of access, that's what makes it cool, because that's what everyone wants to see. Everyone wants to know sort of like the behind the scenes stuff, and maybe the fact that it wasn't so perfect all the time, and the crazy stories and all of that. So to hear that ended up sort of paying off in that sense, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really good. And I'm excited for you to watch it, because as a sports fan, I think there's just another level of, I don't know, like love and understanding and like appreciation that you get for like what this guy did. And like, I feel like that's how we just feel about athletes in general,
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I believe that everything we do in life has a purpose and a meaning behind it. And I believe that purpose and meaning will lead us to what we are destined to do. You worked at a dance studio.
Yeah.
For 11 years, you said it paid the bills. I would love to know how you felt having that job prepared you to be where you're at right now.
So it's so funny because, I managed a dance studio. I grew up dancing and loved dancing. And the backstory is when I graduated high school, I knew I was, I grew up in San Diego. And when I graduated high school, I knew I was going to stay in San Diego for college. I went to UC San Diego. But I needed a job. I had just gotten a car. I needed a job. So the studio that I used to dance at had a front desk position open because a girl who I went to high school with was leaving to go to Cal Poly. So I kind of slid in there. So I went from working the front desk to managing. So I wasn't teaching, but it's kind of crazy because it's a very niche business, but there's so many aspects of it that I still think about, or maybe prepped me even for today's life and career. And I think one of those is just the ability to hold conversations with people. I mean, working for a bar, when you work a front desk at a studio, you're having parents come by, you're having kids come by, you're having all sorts of teachers come by, and not just asking you questions about their billing statement or when's my next class. It's just sometimes conversations. Like, kids are bored, they're in between classes. And I love those moments of being when I worked the front desk, the evening shifts of having kids come over and having to talk with them and build those conversations or build relationships with some of the parents who I'm still friends with to this day and still follow on Instagram and catch up with, and the teachers too. And so that whole sort of aspect of it, like, doesn't seem like it would transfer, but it totally did. And I think just also just like little things of, you know, I really learned how to run a business. And granted, that's not what I do now, but it's just little things like training and having to stay on top of it because you're constantly getting emails from parents and you're constantly, you know, making sure teachers are scheduled. It helped me sort of organize when I now have a given week of, oh, I have this interview to do or that interview to do. It just kind of helped me, you know, prepared me, I guess, to stay really focused and on top of it. But it was a fun job. It was crazy. A lot of crazy dance mom moments. And I was there to show kind of like hit it big, and not like The Last Dance, but like I refused to watch Dance Moms because it was like I was living it every day. And I'm like, I can't get roped into this. Like I can't watch this, but it wasn't that crazy as that show.
What was your craziest Dance Mom experience that you'd be willing to share with us?
Gosh, I was just telling my husband the other day, I really wish I had kept like a book of all
God
happened. There was one woman, so when I had first started with the studio, we were in a really, really small it was a really small studio. It was basically a giant room that had a partition that you could separate into two. And then a few years after I'd started working there, they moved into a 16,000 square foot multi-room facility. But at the original place, the OG, it was, again, this one room that had a partition, like a multi-purpose room. And a woman came in and asked if we offered synchronized swimming lessons. And I'm like, there's no pool. Like, it's not a...
Oh my God.
This is a dance studio. There's no pool. So that one was kind of crazy. That one gave us all a really good laugh. Gosh, you're putting me on the spot, and I know that there were so many more, and I'm probably going to think of so many more later. But that one always stuck out because it was also just like the optics of the room that we were in. I'm like, am I missing something? Like, we're in a strip mall. There's a Starbucks right here.
Oh my God.
Swimming place.
That's crazy. I know you had said too when I met you that one of the things you did at the dance studio was you did a lot of audio.
Yeah.
Which I think is so ironic now because you do your podcast with the Chargers called Chargers Podcast Network. I know it's something you're super proud of, and you should be. It's the first of its kind in the NFL. What made you decide to do this?
Yeah, so good point. Good tip on the audio thing, because yeah, I spent many a late night before recitals cutting versions of like Teardrops on my car to Taylor Swift with like time codes and things like that. But yeah, so my podcast that I have with the Chargers is called Playmakers. It focuses on female figures in and around the sports world. And last year we were sort of tasked with just expanding our podcast programming. And I kind of thought about it. I was like, what do I want to do here? What do I, you know, how do you make something that's not just like, oh, let's talk about the game every week because we had one of those. How do you make it different? And so I had this thought. I was like, okay, maybe I could do something with a player's wife or girlfriend, like co-host it. But then what's really funny is I actually was talking with Noah last week, and she was thinking of starting a podcast, and she told me she talked to you.
Yeah.
Like Slim and Trim. And I'm like, yes, that is what I ended up doing, because I'm like, wait, this is way too hard to co-host with someone who I don't really know and have to kind of figure that one out. So then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do it, and it's going to be like all my guests are going to be female guests, and we're going to talk about football, and we're going to talk about real life things. I never wanted it to be pandering. I never wanted it to be pink and scripty font and like all this stuff. Like I just wanted it to be something that really, no matter what gender you are, you could listen to it and gain something from it. And, you know, it's not to say that we don't talk about certain female issues. Like when I had Lindsay Jones from The Athletic on, we talked about her being a mom and her daughter. But if you go on Lindsay Jones's Twitter, she'll tweet little things that her daughter says. And so regardless of, again, your gender, that's interesting. Or when Derek Watt was on our team last year, I had his wife, Gabriella, on to talk about just what it's like being part of a football family, like the Watt family. And it's just a cool conversation. So it was just an idea that I had. I just really wanted to be able to contribute to the conversation and not give women a voice in sports, because these women are so established, way more established than me, but be able to just showcase, like, look at all the cool chicks in this business and look at what they're doing, regardless if it's writing, broadcasting, being a mom, being a mother to players. You know, I just really wanted to highlight that. And I think it's been really cool, and it's been really fun. It's turned in basically to like a passion project for me too.
How do you see it evolving?
That's a really good question. So after the season, I wasn't really sure, you know, is this something that I keep going in the off season, because the cadence felt kind of hard. But in March, I did, and because March was like Women's History Month and International Women's Day was in March, I had this idea to do, hey, we're going to do like 3 really special episodes. And so we got Leslie Visser, who's a Hall of Fame broadcaster, and she was going to be the first woman to receive the Sports Lifetime Achievement Emmy. I got Sam Rappaport, who works for the NFL, and she's their senior director of...
She's a badass.
Yeah.
She is a badass, yeah.
And then Jane Goodell, which was really cool because she did the Lifetime of Sundays film last year, and also just being Roger's wife and having 2 daughters, having that perspective on football was really unique. So we sort of took that month, I sort of took that month and made it kind of niche. And then as we moved on, the draft, I was like, oh, I'll get Cynthia Freeland and talk about, you know, let's have her mock draft, you know? So I don't know, we'll kind of see. But, you know, last year I focused a lot on broadcasters and sideline reporters who were having our games the following week. But then when I kind of stepped back and looked at Jane or Sam or other women, like, you know, they're female agents. There are a lot of other women who work in the sports field who you don't just see on TV, but have really prominent roles. And I think I'd like to feature some of those voices this coming season too.
I look forward to that. So you and I are both ladies of Laura Olkman's Galvanize, which has, I know it's changed my life, and I think it has changed yours too. And one of the things that we always talk about in Galvanize is, you know, it's not your who, it's your why. So I would love to know, we know what your who is, but what is your why?
I think my why is, you know, so funny because I think you hear this a lot now, and I'm trying to figure out a different way. But initially it was, you know, to tell stories and really make those connections with whoever the subject is. If it's a player, a coach, if it's a, you know, person on staff, whatever it is. I just really, really enjoyed that. And I think a lot of that goes back to, I come from a family that worked in TV broadcasting. My parents worked for a local station growing up. My mom is still there behind the scenes. But just growing up in that environment, always around news, always around kind of that buzz. And I was just always really attracted to it. I never really knew, I'll say this, I didn't initially know it was what I wanted to do, but it was always sort of in the back of my head of, oh, that's cool. And then once I figured it out, I just went full force. And I think it's to be able to share those stories and also just be like a selfless reporter in that sense. I think you learn that it's not about you. When you know, do these interviews and things like that, the best types of content are the pieces where you take, you know, the reporter out of it in a sense. You don't make it about yourself. And I think that's something that I've learned and I've grown a lot with. But just to be able to really share people's stories is something that's really special to me.
Love that. And I love what you said about being selfless, because I know this sounds so bad, but I know which reporters, man or woman, it doesn't matter, make it about themselves, and I don't listen anymore.
Yeah.
I just don't. And that sounds terrible, but the ones that never once say I or me, I am always engaged in listening to, and in the way that they say things. And I think those are the ones that, to me, tell the most compelling stories and get things out of their interviewees in a way that, like, I think we just strive to, you know?
Yeah, one kind of example of that in a different sense, because it's not a video piece that's coming out, but it's an editorial piece. But I actually got to sit in yesterday with one of our rookie mini camp meetings, and I logged into the Zoom, and the person on staff who was holding it, like, briefly introduced me at first, just to let the guys know, like, hey, you know, if you see this headshot or Hayley pop up, sushi
Yeah.
and I ducked out after 10 minutes, but it was one of those where I was just in the background, just watching, taking notes. And then throughout this week, I'm going to go back and interview some of the players and talk to them about it. But it's one of those where I'm going to write a piece, but it's almost like I'm strictly in the background, like watching it from a distance, like, because initially I had nothing to do with it. I was just essentially sitting in a room, but sort of taking myself out of it. But it's kind of fun when you can do pieces like that too.
Looking forward to it. All right, let's go ahead and raise our glass and have a cheers. We're going to get into some fun rapid fire questions. So cheers, drink on up. Everyone who's watching, make sure you're sipping along to whatever it is you're sipping. Okay, Hayley, so rapid fire questions. First thing that comes to your mind, try not to hesitate, but I understand if you do, okay?
Okay.
Okay, what would people be shocked to know about you?
I think that's a good one. I love watching Food Network. It's like my background TV. Like it's one of those things where I can just put it on. It doesn't matter who is on or what show is on. It is like perfect.
Yes! Oh my God, you can. I cannot. Can I impersonate anyone? Probably. I can't think of any right now, though. That's a good one, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure it says a lot about my musical talent because, like, God love her, but she's not Barbara Streisand. We'll say that.
I don't think. Yeah. No, that's amazing. Someone said terrible. Yes, Benji, I know it was terrible. I did it, though, for the cause. Okay, I did it for the cause.
Great or good?
Okay. Who should my next guest be?
Ooh, that's a good one. I was kind of thinking like Galvanized Pipeline, and I know you've had some of us on already, but at the camp, the Chargers camp last year, I met Lindsay Young, who's a staff writer for the Vikings, and she is just one of the sweetest, like literally, she is just such a sweet, sweet person, and she's really, really good at what she does. And I love her because when I started out with the Chargers, I started out strictly writing, and she does most of that. And she's done a couple like video interviews here and there for them, but that ability to tell stories through writing, I think it's an art that will never go away. And she does a really, really good job of it. And she, again, is just so sweet. Like she has sent me just like check like cards, like I just adore that about her. And so I think she's awesome. And again, she's come through the Galvanized grouping, and it was really fun. Even last year, like she works for a team, but she still came out and she did the Chargers camp, and that was really, really cool because it just shows you can never stop learning and growing as a person, as a broadcaster, as whatever it is in life. And it was just really fun to meet her last year.
I have this new motto, only because you just said it, and that's why I kind of want to bring it up. And it was during this entire pandemic, and I said, you have two choices right now. You can choose to evolve or you can choose to rot. And yes, it's a bit dramatic and a bit extreme, but that's just kind of me. But like, truthfully, when I think about like the term evolving and your evolution as a human being, the first person I think of is Kobe Bryant. And there's a reason that man was able to stay in the game of basketball for as long as he did and continue to be the best year after year after year. The minute you are satisfied with where you are, throw in the pen, you've lost. You've already lost. Like you should constantly be trying to be better than you were yesterday and the day before. Like you should just keep going and going. And I just love that you said that. So I just had to throw my 2 cents in. Yeah. Okay. Last two questions. What have you learned the most about yourself during this time?
I've learned that I can be really self-sufficient in the sense of things like conducting interviews. So it's kind of silly where technology like Zoom and Skype, that's always been here. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they appeared March 15th or whatever and that happened. But being able to you know, again, I love our camera crew that we work with, but when you're just now a one-man band and you need to get interviews with people, being able to do those through Zoom has been really fun. And it's actually, I've gotten to talk to really, really cool people. Like I knew Dan Fouts from when I did our preseason sideline broadcasts and our preseason games last year, but I talked to him about Justin Herbert. I just talked to Chris Carter the other day, another Hall of Famer. And it's one of those things where I think it kind of forces you like, okay, well, I need to create content. So how, you know, who can I talk to, or like what kind of cool angles are there? And so one of our draft picks went to Ohio State, and he ended up going back for his senior year. And he had said in an interview that Chris Carter persuaded him to go back. And so I just reached out to the Vikings and was like, hey, is there a chance? And they're like, yeah, he'll do it. He'll talk Ohio State. And so that's coming out this week. So I've just learned that it's a technology I'll probably still use. Like even when we eventually go back to normal, like I'll probably always do podcasts this way, you know, unless we get a TriCaster or are able to do something different. But
Yeah.
that video element is super, super cool. And again, it even if I turn those pieces into written pieces as well with videos, to have those interviews on video is something that's really unique. And I've just kind of learned, like I've made the joke, I almost feel like more productive in a sense, because when you schedule that interview, it's like you and the person just working. You don't have to worry about, you know, oh, does this time work for my camera guy or whatnot?
Yes. Yeah.
You're doing it virtually, and it's been really cool in that sense.
Love it. Okay. And then lastly, when all of this is said and done and we can finally go back to living, whenever that is, what will be the first thing that you'll do?
Well, I say this depending on what time of year I say that is go on my honeymoon to Hawaii.
Oh.
Postponed, as we like to say. So I got married in March of 2019, and given the fact that we were in the season or you know, we were still working in the off season, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There are only so many times, I guess, you can really like take a vacation when you work in the NFL. And so we figured, you know what, we're going to wait a year because planning a wedding was kind of crazy. So then we had planned it for March of this year when, which we were going to be there for our 1-year anniversary. And then as things started getting kind of hairy and hectic, it was like, you know what, it's probably better to postpone. So we did that. So depending on what time of year it is, love to hit up Kauai and go lay on a beach somewhere.
Well, I look forward to that for the both of you, because Hawaii sounds fantastic. I don't think whenever the year is, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you will please raise your glass with me. Everyone who's watching, raise your glass. We always end on toast. And this is actually by Willie Nelson. And he said, when I started counting my blessings, my whole life changed. So cheers to counting your blessings and not your sorrows.
Love that, Jenna and Willie.
Mm-hmm. Hayley, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you had as much fun as I did, and I know that I cannot wait to see you back on the sideline with the Chargers, whenever that may be, in whatever capacity that might be.
And I have to say really quick before we go, super proud of you, because you and I met in Chicago last season, and you were like, yes, starting a podcast, and I'm like, you should. And
here we are. It took me a year, but I think this was the proper timing, we'll say.
Good call. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you. We'll talk soon, girl. All right. Bye-bye. All right, guys. That was Hayley Elwood. I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did. Hayley is so fantastic, and I look forward to the NFL in whatever capacity that might be when we finally get it. Okay, guys, thank you very much for tuning on in to another fantastic episode. Tomorrow we will have on Marty Bacina. Marty is a Southside guy. He plays with the Oakland A's organization. And I'm excited to kind of talk shop with him a little bit. He's new in their system, and just kind of explore his journey, his endeavors, his adventures, his highs, his lows, and all of that in between. So everyone, enjoy the rest of your Monday. Be safe, wash your hands, drink responsibly, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.